Welcome back to Cake With It, and today I'm going to show you how to make a special Mother's Day present. It looks like a wooden bucket with flowers, and wait till you see what the dirt is made out of. So in today's episode is all about Mother's Day, so you won't see a confessional of me. It's all about the cake. So I baked two 8-inch cakes, and they were Devil's Food chocolate, which you can get the recipe at www.cakewithit.com. And I'm just going to trim the top of it, and I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to do that to both of my cakes. I'm going to trim the top to make sure my cake is leveled, and I'm going to cut them in half so I end up with 4 cake layers. And then you know what time is it? It's time to simple syrup all of our cake layers. And I grabbed my first layer of cake. I add buttercream, vanilla buttercream that I did, and I'm going to spread it evenly around that cake layer. Then I'm going to add the second layer and repeat with buttercream. And I'm going to do that with my third layer, repeat with buttercream, and then put my fourth layer on top. And again, you could fill it with any buttercream or any filling you'd like, but I like the contrast of, I wanted the dirt to be brown, so I chose the Devil's Food cake, but then I wanted a vanilla contrast with it. And if you never made buttercream and you want to make Italian meringue buttercream, go ahead and click on the link in the description or on the top to see my tutorial on how you can make your own buttercream. We are building this cake upside down, so I want to carve it on an angle from the top to the bottom, some slope slanted angle. I'm going to do that carefully all around the cake, and you want to cut as little as you want and take your time, because if you rush it you will destroy it. You could cut off little by little, but you can't put back what you already cut off. And then I'm going to buttercream this cake. So this is our crumb coat. I'm going to crumb coat this cake, and then I'm going to chill it, just like every other cake we ever do on this channel. The reason you want to crumb coat the cake is to catch all the crumbs, then you chill it, you take it back once it's firm, and do your final coating of buttercream. That way your fondant is smooth when you put it on top of your cake. If you skip this step, you will have a lot of uneven fondant everywhere. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Make sure you like the video and you share it with your family and friends, because now you have a new cake video every Tuesday. Then I take it out of the fridge. I add another fresh coating of buttercream, and this will be our last coating of buttercream. And then I'm going to smooth it out with my bench scraper. That way I make sure my edges are straight and angled. Well, my lines are clean. And then this cake is going to go back into the fridge to chill. I then color some fondant a little tan and brown, because I'm going to add more natural browns later with cocoa powder. And I roll it out, and I use a toothpick, or you could use a pin, to poke a hole in all the bumps of the fondant. And then with your fondant smoother, you're going to smooth all of that out so you don't have it. Then with a ruler, I measured 9 inches across, because I want to have 3 by 3 panels, if that makes sense. I measure 9 across and I cut it, and then I measure 5.5 in length. And when I measure 5.5 in length, that's the length of my cake. So you got to make sure you measure your cake. And then I split 9 into 3, so that's 3 each. So then I cut and measured my fondant, and I'm supposed to get 6 panels, but I'm gonna get 5, and that's okay. I'll repeat the process. Again, I mark down where my 3 inches are gonna go, and I'm gonna cut those, and then I'm gonna mark down where my 5.5 inches goes, and I cut those, and I repeat it until I have 9 panels that my cake requires. Then with my fondant tool, I'm going to make random lines, deep lines on the panels, and then with the back of the fondant tool, with the shell, I'm going to create random lines that will stand out once you add the powdered cocoa powder. And as I mentioned, I'm going to use a brush and cocoa powder to dust each panel to give it a more earthy and realistic color that a lot of brown food color can give you. I had leftover brown fondant and I rolled it out, and I'm going to put that on the top of the cake, which actually is the bottom because we're building the cake upside down. And I'm going to trim around the edges, and it should adhere to the cake because the buttercream was still fresh from the bottom. And now it's time to flip the cake. So I grab one cutting board, one cake board, put it on top of it, and then with one swift motion, I'm gonna flip the cake, and now the cake is the right side. So 2 problems. My panels are squared, so they won't go around the cake, and it's not adhering to the cake. So I use simple syrup, and then I realize this is a tapered bucket. So I have to taper my panels. That's the only thing I could think of. So risking it all, I trim off some of the panels, and sure enough, it fit into the cake. So you can either put buttercream again or keep using the simple syrup, but you have to taper your panels. I don't build stuff, I just build cakes. I don't build buckets made out of wood. So I'm learning while making this. And I use a cut cake board on top, so that way I don't damage the top of the cake. And you just want to repeat this until all your panels are covered. And again, you want to move them and adjust them so that it fits, but it doesn't have to look perfect because again, this is wood. It's supposed to mimic an old bucket, so it's gonna look so cool how each one's gonna be very unique. So I ended up cutting some smaller and then some bigger, and then with a little gap, I just estimate how much I need. I trim off one of my last emergency panel I had, and I put that, and it fit perfectly. I mean, I'm impressed of this cake. I'm speechless. So I grab more of my tan fondant and I roll it out as long as the cake is, and with a ruler I'm going to cut it to about 1.25 inch thick, and I'm going to do 2 of them because this is going to be the metal part that's going to hold the cake together. So I'm going to glue it around the cake, and it will definitely help it with the structure of the panels. And I'm going to repeat the same thing on the bottom, and then with silver food coloring, I'm gonna color gently all around the ring. That way it looks realistic and it looks like a real rustic bucket with rusty silver metal around it. It's gonna look so cool. And for the dirt, I'm gonna use Oreo cookies. I'm gonna put in my food processor and process them until I have some chunky and some fine grind, and I'm gonna put that on top of my cake. And look at how great it looks. It looks like real dirt, legit real dirt, and I am so impressed. So now that I have my dirt on top of my cake, I figured I'd do something silly and make it look more realistic by simple syruping the dirt so it looks like wet dirt. Now, I could make fake flowers, but I thought real flowers would be a cool idea because you could give flowers and a cake. So I plastic wrap the bottom of the flowers. That way when you put it in the cake, the flowers not touching the cake. So I arrange my flowers by inserting them into the cake, and it is already looking amazing. You want to repeat that with any kind of flower you'd like. Then I go back with scissors and I cut off some of that excess plastic wrap that is coming out so it doesn't look very obvious. And finally, the last simple syrup to make sure our flowers are fresh. So I'm going to put more simple syrup and make it look like it's falling, like if it already rained. And at last, because haters will say this is fake, I'm gonna cut the cake. And it is just, I am so impressed with this cake, and I think it's a wonderful gift, Mother's Day, anniversary, any kind of nice loving gift. And it's 2 cakes in one. You have flowers and a cake. And that is it for today's episode on Cake With It. And I hope you go back and watch all the other episodes, especially the How to Pikachu Cake.